Hello and welcome everybody to the next episode of the Inside Data Series podcast. We're meeting another author today. She doesn't really need any introduction. Straight out of the data den, we have the lip-syncing mistress of data, the one and only classification guru, Susan Walsh. Susan, pleasure to have you with us today.
Oh, thank you so much for having me. No data den today. You do get 3D Susan and, of course, my future husband, Robbie Williams, and a slightly frazzled looking version of myself. But it's all good. It's Friday.
It's Friday. Woohoo! Weekend ahead of us. So, Susie, could you just do a little brief introduction about who you are?
Yeah, so I am known as the classification guru, fixer of dirty data. I've had my business, the classification guru, for almost 5 years now. Prior to that, I worked for a spend analytics company for almost 5 years. And before that, I had absolutely nothing to do with data. That I fell into it. Before the spend analytics company, I had a women's clothes shop here in Guildford, where I live. That went horribly wrong. And so I desperately needed some work and found an ad online to go and do some spend data classification for procurement data. And that's how I have ended up here. Yeah, after a while, I decided I wanted to keep doing what I loved, but needed to move on. And the only way to really do that was set up the business, because I didn't have any connections in the industry. I didn't even know what my job title was. You know, I'm not a classically trained data analyst or data scientist. You know, everything was kind of learned on the job. And I didn't even think what I did really had a job name. So yeah, starting a business made perfect sense.
Absolutely. And here you are today, which is absolutely fantastic.
Yeah.
That's great. Thank you. So we're here specifically for your book. We're going to have a chat about it. There it is. Fantastic. Yeah. Between the Spreadsheets, classifying and fixing dirty data.
Yeah.
Must admit, my two young girls saw it and they were like, Dad, what's that? Because obviously it's between the Spreadsheets. It's a bit, it was quite funny, cheeky. Actually. Yeah, a bit cheeky, exactly. So I've been reading a few books. We've done a few interviews with different authors and stuff like that. And I'm starting to get a kick up the backside, really, to sort out our data here at KDR. We work, obviously, we work with a lot of company data. And your book really resonated with, I was looking through some of the examples and I'm thinking, yes. So it's time to do something about it. So we're gonna do our own thing here, I think, and start doing a bit of classification, a bit of cleansing.
Oh, well. And if you have any questions, let me know. But I really wanted to kind of appeal to not necessarily the data scientists, because they already know how to do it, really. They just don't enjoy it. But there's a whole range of people out there who need to understand why you need to clean data and how to do it. And, not everyone has lots of tools. So you can do it in Excel. It's not the easiest way, but it can be done. And actually, my brother, who's in finance, read the book, and even he said he found that there were aspects of it that he could use in his job. And I was like, wow, that's a huge compliment. It's my brother. Absolutely. Normally he tells me everything I do is rubbish. Yeah. And
then have a fight.
Yeah.
Brilliant. So let's start by telling our listeners what is dirty data in the context of the book.
So dirty data really is different things to different people depending on what types of data you work with. You mentioned company names, but people might be working with customer names and actual people names, or they could be working with time series data, or there's so many different types of data, but the basics of it's things like information in the wrong columns, the wrong descriptions, typos, spelling mistakes. I've got a post that I share every few months on the number of different ways you could spell freight and carriage. It's unbelievable. It can be formatting. So I've done a couple of polls on LinkedIn, and everybody is formatting their dates in a different way. Nobody is using a single standard. It could be, like addresses, you've got the postcode and the city column and the phone number. Some of them have an international dialing code, some of them don't, some of them have zeros, some of them don't because of Excel. So it can get really messy. You can have things like currencies. If you don't know that you're working with different currencies, when you add up all those numbers, they could end up being very wrong if you're not careful. And then finally, units of measure. We tend to be a more global economy now, but how are you spelling litres? Is it the European way or is it the North American way? Are you talking in kilometers or miles, grams or pounds? All those things start to cause a lot of problems if you're not aware of them. And of course, all those things end up causing duplicates, which are pretty much in every single data set that ever existed.
Absolutely.
Or near duplicates, as I like to call them. So where you might have Bob Smith and Robert Smith, similar, and they are actually the same, but in terms of looking at them, you wouldn't necessarily know straight away that they were duplicates.
Yeah.
So
right, fantastic.
Yeah, great, just a few things.
Yeah, absolutely, just a couple. Watch out for. No, brilliant. I mean, you mentioned before your kind of personal journey into data, which is obviously super interesting and kind of fallen into it. And you're super niche, really, aren't you? Because you specialize in spend data specifically.
I think I pretty much created a niche for myself, and then I knew people were looking for my services or needed them, but they weren't looking for me because they didn't know I existed. And so I needed to find a way to catch people's attention. And, let's face it, data is a pretty dry subject, especially data cleaning. It's not really valued by most businesses. But it's the most important part of any process. If you're getting new software in, if you're, CRM systems, if you want to be GDPR compliant, you have to have clean data. So, and also, a lot of data people are introverted, they don't necessarily help make data look more, super skilled, super talented, but not necessarily wanting to talk about it or in a way that's relatable to non-data people. And so that's what I've tried to do is make it fun, make it interesting, and make it relatable to everybody.
Yeah, fantastic. And what is spend data for people that may not know, and why is the classification of it so vitally important?
Yeah, so it's really I find it really interesting. It is there are procurement departments within large organizations who buy everything for the business, and they negotiate contracts with suppliers, pricing, they look to reduce costs, make sure that they're working with suppliers that are not breaching kind of like modern slavery rules or health and safety rules. They do a lot of things. And to do all of that, they need visibility on what they're actually spending with each of their suppliers, and actually to know how many suppliers they really have. Because, for example, Dell Computers, Dell Software, Dell Inc., Dell Limited, these all come up in one company's supplier names. So to know exactly how much they're spending with just Dell, I add in a new column and normalize it so that when they do a pivot table or something more exciting in BI or Click or Tableau, they can pull it straight away to know how much they spent with that one supplier. And then they want to see what they've spent. So it might be built from a taxonomy that has maybe 4 levels. Level 1 might be IT. Level 2 could be hardware or software. Level 3 could then be, computers. And then you could have level 4 as laptops, desktops, tablets, or peripherals, hard monitors, mouses, keyboards. And depending on how much level of detail they want to go into, I'll classify it to that level if they have that information, which comes from the finance system. So there'll be like invoice descriptions or purchase order PO descriptions. So, when you buy something from, say, Dell, you get an invoice, whether you're a business or not, and it'll say the XPS 13. So that's what would come up in the data, and then that's how I would know to classify it as a laptop.
Right, fantastic.
So hopefully that
yeah, no, absolutely. I mean, you focus quite heavily in the book on about kind of making sure the foundations are in place, keeping a safety net, going back, checking, double checking, triple checking, doing cleansing activity separately, and rechecking it again. I mean, data classification, any data quality activity really, is a serious investment in time, and it's definitely not for everyone, I guess, is it? Why do you love it so much yourself?
I think it's really satisfying to see the change from this messy data to this super tidy, organized, usable data. And I've got a visual, and it's like a pile of messy clothes, and then I say, I can do this for your data, and then they're all neatly folded and organized. And that's how the data looks to me. And just the response from the clients when you can give them something that changes their work life, that really makes a difference to them, is really satisfying. I see the importance in it. But it is about checking again. And like you said, it is a huge investment of time up front. However, if you get it right, it's much easier to maintain. So you're saving a lot of time in the long run.
And time is money.
Sure is. And, you're minimizing mistakes, and mistakes cost as well to the business. So for example, say it was you were shipping out the wrong product to clients because it was mislabeled or something. You got to pay for the shipping to get the product back and then send out a new one. That's expensive.
Or
absolutely. if you don't deliver to your supplier or your client on time, especially like retailers, they charge you if you miss your delivery slot. So it's bigger than just it's a bit wrong.
Yeah, absolutely. There's a lot of clothing reference. I don't know if that comes from the shop that you had or not. I don't know.
A little bit, I guess. Yeah. And then I have done some work with clothing retailers as well.
Right. Okay. So it's all linked. That's good. Fantastic. Yeah. You've created your own methodology for data classification and normalization. What do you mean when you say make sure your data has its coat on?
So it's, again, I wanted something that everybody in an organization could relate to and understand. So how are you going to remember that? Well, having a data coat is memorable. So the first thing is the data has to be consistent. So is everybody using the same terminology? Is everybody working in the same way? Is everyone using the same units of measure? Is everybody understanding what a customer is in the organization? Because it can mean different things to different departments. So all those kinds of things. And then it's got to be organized. So with that, we're going back to the clothes analogy. Think of a messy wardrobe, and you throw a top in there, and then you go to get it the next time, and it takes you ages to find it, and it's all crumpled. If you'd hung it up in order of like clothing type or color, you would have just been able to go in and get it. And data's pretty much the same. Categorize it by region, by country, by division, by anything you want. If you do that at the start, then when your boss asks you how much are we selling to Dell in Italy, you've got that information there. Don't wait to be asked for it, and then it takes you like a day to pull everything together. Have it there all ready to go.
Yeah.
And then once it's organized, it also needs to be accurate. So, make sure everything is categorized correctly, that it's labeled correctly, the right countries. You'd be amazed at the data I see where the city is like London and the country is China. And, that is really going to mess up reporting and analytics and decision making. Yeah. So get that right. And then once you have all those things, the consistency, the organization, and the accuracy, you then have trustworthy data. So people can make decisions knowing that it's the right information they have. So that's your data coat.
Get your coat, you're classified.
Yeah, I did a blog, get your data coat you've pulled. And so at that point, I realized that was a UK term and not known worldwide.
Oh, right.
So I did a blog for World of Procurement for that, and apparently now if you type in like get your quote you've pulled, my blog will actually come up on the Google search page. So
that's fantastic.
I know.
Brilliant.
Yeah.
Oh, brilliant. Great stuff. I mean, I was going to ask kind of why spend data classification is so important, but I think you pretty much covered that off. I mean, there's obviously a lot of cost saving stuff, a lot of risk mitigation, and also there's also the profitability and stuff like that, which it all impacts. So what's the biggest impact you've seen personally from data with its coat on?
Time is saved, millions of dollars have been saved. I had another client who didn't realize they had 1,000 consultants globally on their vendor list, and they didn't need as many as that. So they did a whole rationalization project.
Wow.
Yeah, imagine, and it's not just that, imagine the cost of having to maintain all those individual suppliers on a system. So setting them up, processing the invoices, getting them paid, that all has a cost attached to it. So times that by 1,000, that's going to be a big cost. You rationalize that down to the number of consultants that you really need, the ones that you use on a regular basis, and you're going to save a lot of money, not just from the cost of the consultant, but the processing, admin, back office charges that people don't even really think about.
Yeah. Wow, that's incredible. That's an incredible story.
Yeah, even with CRM systems, you've got like 3 different versions of the same account, and someone's sitting there for 5-10 minutes figuring out which account they need to update and put their notes in. All those little chunks of 5-10 minutes throughout the day times however many people, if you're in a call center or something, there's hundreds of people working there, times that 5 minutes, that's a huge amount of time that's been wasted.
Yeah, absolutely.
But it's a really hard thing to quantify as well, and that's why it's hard to get investment from senior decision makers, budget holders, because they buy software to try and fix their data, but what they don't realize is they need to have clean data before it goes into the software. But they're happy to pay for the software because they can see it, they can touch it and feel it. The clean data thing is much more intangible, and you could track time and things, but it's going to be very subjective, and it's going to be different for every company.
Yeah, totally. I mean, the amount of users, I guess, in an enterprise, people inputting data, that's hundreds of hours and hundreds of minutes, even where things can go wrong. So it's important.
Yeah, even
once
things
you have
like,
done it.
Yeah,
make sure it's protected, I guess, in a way.
When you're putting an address in, do you use commas to separate the lines, or do you just leave them blank? Is it just spaces? Things like that. Because if you end up with a mixed database and you try to do like a text to columns in Excel, it's going to mess everything up if you don't remove the commas first.
Yeah. There's no quick win, I guess, either, is there?
No, but if you kind of think about what your end result wants to be before you start, you're going to be in a better place.
Yeah, totally. The book gives great insight into the world of data classification generally, but it's also a really good tutorial for those looking to potentially use Excel to tackle some of these issues and problems.
Yeah.
Should anyone in an organization try to tackle this, and if they did, what advice would you give them to ensure that they didn't I'm going to say break anything?
I wouldn't say every or anyone should, but everyone should at least read it and understand it. We all have different skills. Some people are naturally good with Excel, it's intuitive and they can do it. Other people are absolutely terrified of technology. So getting everybody to understand the importance is more important than getting everybody to do it, because getting everyone to do it could actually cause more problems. But it's also shouldn't be the responsibility of one single person. Spread that knowledge and that risk across the business so that, if someone does go off sick or, it's not going to all fall apart. There's people there to catch and keep the consistency of it going.
Yeah, absolutely. I love the fact you talk about the human touch as well. That's chapter 6, guys. If you want to go and get the book. In the data industry, those with an interest in data are compelled to look for the next amazing solution or tech. But we shouldn't really forget that actually behind every piece of kit is a user. Do you think humans will ever be replaced when it comes to data quality, cleansing, classification, all that sort of stuff?
Again, I think yes, but in certain areas more than others. So, cleaning names and addresses and things, there's some really good tech out there already. Classifying spend data, it's very subjective. So it's a lot harder to get training data to train, because, I could be using DHL as a courier service, but a manufacturer could be using them as logistics and warehousing. And so you have to know that before you start. Things like, if the supplier is Amazon, is that office supplies and stationery you're buying, or is it web services or something else? Advertising.
Could be anything, to be fair, if it's Amazon.
Yeah, exactly. So you can't just give it a single classification, or if you train it, you have to know what the descriptions are and what they mean. So that's a lot further off, I think.
Yeah.
But there will always be a place for humans, because humans will always need to put it in before it. But there'll never be a time when the machines will know if it's right or wrong without being trained.
Well, yeah, without being told. Yeah, I get it. I love this bit. This is great. So you don't really need to say much more than not tackling dirty data is like wearing your underpants inside out for the second day and effectively delaying the inevitable. I thought that was brilliant.
I'm so pleased that they didn't take it out, because I was so worried they were going to remove that. And I was like, no, we have to keep that in.
Yeah, no, absolutely fantastic. Tell me about the dirty data maturity model.
Oh, so I'm so chuffed with this. It's here, and basically it is a visual representation of laundry representing the quality of your data. And again, this is to sell it to decision makers, people who are not necessarily data professionals, but you need to get across the importance of what the problem is. So at the start, you've got this messy pile of clothes on the floor, which means you're probably not doing anything. You're using Excel. You're only fixing a problem when it comes up. Nobody really cares what's going on. It's a complete train wreck. Then the next stage is getting that nice messy clothes on the floor into a laundry basket. So at this point, you might start to categorize it or tidy it up a little bit. Maybe give people responsibility for it. Maybe think about using some tools. Then the next stage is, well, it's got to be ironed, all these clean wash clothes. So the ironing board comes out, and then at that stage, you might want to start thinking about getting some analysts in, using some tools, visualization tools like, BI, Click, Tableau. Maybe starting to think about some rules about how you enter the data into your system. Possibly starting to think about regular maintenance of it. Then the next stage after that would be, it's in the wardrobe and it's hanging up and it's ready to use. So at this stage, you could be using AI, machine learning. You could be, have regular dedicated people working on the data, specialists in the area. You're doing a lot of analytics on it, and you're really using the data. And then finally is the pinnacle, which is the wardrobe with the clothes, but they're all organized in terms of style and color and folded in there properly, and everything is great. And at this point, I say this is when you have to work the hardest, because once you get there, you have to keep it at that level. And that's the hard part. And my secret sauce is always been maintenance. You know, that is the secret to good, clean data consistently, is maintenance, checking it regularly, you know, using as many tools as possible, you know, train up AI, throw everything at it, but maintain it as well. And that's the dirty data maturity model.
Fantastic. Very relatable, I think, for non-data people.
Yeah,
I guess it's a good way of looking at it.
That's the way, because I still kind of think of myself as a non-data person, because I didn't go through the education system learning data. So I always think about how I try to relate to data. So, and then use that to relate it to other people.
Yeah. Yeah. How many coats were in that wash pile? Oh, brilliant.
Yeah.
So yeah, towards the end of the book, you summarize with quite a few different sort of stories. I don't want to say horror stories, but some of them maybe.
They're real stories that people donated anonymously. So, you know, this has happened. This is real life in the trenches stuff. Yeah.
Right. Okay. Fantastic. I didn't realize that when I was going through them. I saw one and I thought, I might know who that company is.
Yeah.
Just because obviously we speak to so many people and stuff.
Yeah.
But I didn't want to put two and two together, to be fair. Which one's your favorite and why?
I do like the roads recovery story, where they had sent out all this mail to the right address but with the wrong name, and internally the marketing department was trying to sue the IT department to get money back for costs. So IT did an analysis on the mail that went out and found out that actually, even though it had the wrong name on the letter, 80% or something still renewed their membership. So I found that, really, really interesting. You know, data can really divide and cause problems for people if it's not looked after properly.
Yeah, that's an amazing stat, that is.
And also it shows how easily it can happen as well. You know, because the thing that I always say is you need to know and understand your data. If you're working with it all the time, you become familiar with it. And then you can start to pick up quite quickly when things don't look right. If you've got a massive database of people's names, you know, people, they might not have noticed that it had slipped, or, you know, you should have some checks and balances in place to make sure, you know, before things go out. You know, whenever I merge things together, or even, you know, I always just check the original file versus the updated one to make sure that things have matched.
Yeah. Going back to that point before about rechecking everyth and having that safety net. Yeah.
Well, you know, I say in there, you know, I make loads of mistakes, but my clients never see them because I check and check again.
Yeah, absolutely. It's funny, isn't it? I think as data people, or people that are aware of data, if you got a letter and it had the wrong name in it, you'd be like, "Ooh, data quality issue." Sort that out for you. But if you didn't know, I mean, would you be that bothered? And I think that statistic probably reflects that a little bit. That, you know, 80% still renewed. That's nuts.
But then when I set up my limited company a year ago, and then I started, you know, as soon as you set up a company, all these people start mailing you like, sign with our bank or use our services. And I got a letter from an accountancy firm who it was someone else's first name, my surname, someone else's business, and my address. And to me, that screamed, how can I trust you with my financial information when you can't even manage a database? So it can make a difference.
Yeah, I get that. I mean, we were talking a few years ago about customer loyalty. It's just completely gone out the window, basically, because all these different things that all impact it. But at the end of the day, most of them start with data. Brilliant.
It's funny you say that. Actually, I have had my mobile number since about 1997.
Wow.
And it started as Genie, and then it became BT Cellnet, and then Cellnet, then BT Cellnet, and then O2. And actually speaking to people at O2, they said they only have information going back to 2003. They don't even have that I have been a customer longer than that on their system. Yeah.
Wow. So you swapped suppliers, did you?
No, not yet. I'm not sure how I feel about the whole Virgin merging thing, but they have said that they won't put roaming charges on in Europe, so that's a bonus.
Oh yeah, but yeah, you got to be careful now, I guess, haven't you? That's all that sort of stuff.
Yeah,
absolutely, fantastic. We're slowly coming to the end of the podcast now.
Time just flies when you're having fun.
It does. So last question, really. What would be your number one tip for people who know they need to do something about their dirty data, but they don't really know where to start?
Well, without having a shameless plug of the book,
why we're here.
I'd rather people kind of discovered it for themselves and find it when they need it. I mean, it is a good reference tool, and you can find other people's reviews out there. But if you don't know where to start, look at what's wrong first. Try and and flag it to your manager or senior members of the company and say, we need to fix this, because if we don't, XYZ is going to happen. Or my team is spending 4 days a month pulling these reports for you, but if we clean the data, it could be done in 4 hours. Start looking and finding out where your problems are, and then think about what you need to do, what you want the end result to be with your clean data. Then get the book, and then if that's not enough, give me a call.
Fantastic, brilliant. Great stuff. Thank you so much, Susan. Been a blast.
Brilliant. Thanks for having me.
No problem at all. No, it's been a pleasure. Do you want to just let people know where they can pick the book up from?
Yeah. So if you're in the UK, you can get it Amazon, Facet Publishing, Waterstones. I've seen it on WH Smith, I think, as well. If you Google it, it will be there. In the US, you're more likely to get it from the American Library Association, but it is available on Amazon too. And then I think Routledge publish it in kind of Australia, etc. So, but Google and you'll find it. There is another book called Between the Spreadsheets that's not a data book. I'm just going to warn people now. It's not that one. It's the one that looks like spreadsheets on the front.
And it says classifying and fixing your dirty data.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay, fantastic. Good stuff. Thanks a lot, Susan. Absolute pleasure. Take care.
Brilliant. Thank you.